If you want it, you can have it. All you gotta do is just reach out and grab it. If you want it, you can have it. All you got to do is just reach right out and grab it. Step on up, step into your power.
Always like beginning the Billightenments with that song by Ray LaMontagne, just because it's, I don't know, it's just right there.
Love it.
Today is Dr. Rob Rice and Dr. Scott McGuinness, both on the faculty of St. John Fisher University. And we're going to talk about Dr. Rob's book, which I love, Cliff Notes. And I got to read the manuscript for this. And then when I was reading, and I don't know, I assume I have a final.
Did I give you the last one?
I don't.
Last breakfast?
Well, yeah.
What picture does it have on it?
It's the guy with the dog on his back.
No, you still have one of the proofs.
Okay. Well, the way it just changed and it opens up with you already on the cliff with the dog. I got to tell you, like, I got sweaty palms. I read that chapter twice on purpose because I thought it was so well written. Like, I felt like I was there. I was getting anxious. And I go, to read and have that's something.
I really appreciate that because well, you actually were one of the people who really inspired me to keep going with some of that, because this is a different kind of writing than I've done in the past. You know, I'm at a point now in my career at Fisher where I can do this kind of writing because I enjoy it. And this is, but prior to that, it was more scientific writing
and academia and stuff.
Even my first book was to train. I came on this podcast to talk about it. Train therapists how to use video games in therapy, and so each chapter in that book, I got to tell some case examples and talk about some stories from clinical work, and that felt really good. But that was probably only 30% of that book. Most of that book was more research oriented and approach oriented. This book is more creative, and I was anxious about it, and so I really appreciate you reading it. Because
I loved it. I even loved the early on in the book where you talk about manifestation and how today, I almost feel like it's become a buzzword.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of I don't like to use that word for that reason.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And in the book, you even say, because most of the time what you're told to do, and I'm not sure I 100% agree with this, picture it as it's already done. My thing would be go to the feeling you would have if you had that. How would it feel if, and then you just watch your whole mood and your vibration, I believe, raise. And so that helps. But you said in the book, it's already done in the future. You just got to get there.
Yeah. Well,
and you used some quotes in the book, and Michelangelo talks, or was it Michelangelo?
Yeah, Michelangelo.
Talk memory. About seeing the angel inside the marble, and I'm just setting it free.
I'm so happy that you remember that. That's so cool. Yeah, and I mean, it gets even weirder than that, right? When we talk about the Dr. Deep stuff and time as a form of energy, but not necessarily something that we experience the same way. And so time is a big one. If we talk about time today, then that could be a whole podcast.
Yeah, it is. It is a very big one because I don't know. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen, I believe, in 2025 that'll change things. I've talked to a lot of people with energy and stuff, and I don't know, because I know Scott is very into this as well. But
indeed,
I think that I've been told it's going to be a bumpy start, but it's going to be amazing when everything kind of comes out, whatever that is.
I just love that you're doing this, Bill. I think this is so cool. I just love that you're doing this.
It's weird. Well, like you, I get afraid because I want to make Billightenment its separate own podcast, and I'm not doing that exactly yet. And I'm like, well, how do I do it? Just do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And I don't know why I've gone back to this too. And I'm sorry, we'll get back to the book.
Oh, take your time. Don't worry about it.
But
we got a lot to talk about.
But do hard things. And I know that sounds kind of weird because it's supposed to be easy, but by pushing yourself a little bit, you wind up feeling better.
And that's not even necessarily a
that's your fault,
or a spiritual thing, right? I mean,
no, but that's your fault, because I said to you the last time we were together, Dr. Rice's daughter is was she the field hockey player of the year in our area?
She was. She was primetime 585 field hockey player of the year.
Okay. And you've made videos for her, and making those videos is time consuming, and finding the clips and doing all that. You've written this book. You're working on another book. You're the head of your department at St. John Fisher University. I go, where's the time? Oh, and you have MindFit. Let's not forget that. That's
part of being an academic, is you're supposed to do different stuff. It sounds impressive, but we've got a lot of time to be able to do some of that.
No,
No.
I asked.
It is impressive.
It is impressive,
It's
right?
very impressive.
Scott,
yeah.
And I went, where do you find the time? And he said, I don't really watch TV. And I went, okay, you got to do hard. You just got to do it.
Well, and imagine
that was honestly what has changed me going into 2025.
I'm glad. I'm happy for that. And we put some of that in your water this morning, too. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that I often think, what if I couldn't do this, right? How much would I want to be able to do this stuff if I couldn't do it?
Yeah.
Right. And so whenever I'm kind of faced with resistance and don't want to do one of these things, it's like an easy shift, right? Like, what if I couldn't do this? Like, what if I was, I don't know, not that being a shoe salesman's all that bad. It's probably got its moments. But what if I was a shoe salesman and I was dreaming about doing therapy and writing books and doing that kind of stuff? Like, how much would I want to do it if I couldn't do it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I think you'd want to do it a lot. I'm thinking two things. One, I didn't have the camera where I wanted it. And two, this is how my mind goes. I'm thinking about, if I was a shoe salesman, how bad some people's feet just smell like a bag of Fritos.
I just went to shoe salesman I just went to shoe salesman because of Al Bundy and Married with Children.
Yeah.
They used to, they made that the worst possible job on Married with Children.
Somebody said the two most famous shoe salesmen in history: Al Bundy and Michael Jordan.
That's fantastic.
So what do you hope people take away from the book Cliff Notes?
I hope that, I'm hoping to appeal to a couple of different audiences, right?
Yeah.
I think that I'm hoping that some people can read it and just enjoy the adventure and the story.
It is.
And get
Boy,
out
you get sweaty in that first chapter.
I got sweaty when I was up there.
I can imagine.
And then the other thing I'm hoping is, for some people who want to think about some other things a little bit more in depth in terms of just consciousness and all the quantum stuff going on around us and the power of gratitude and some of those things that were really poignant and important for me while I was up there and experienced that story. I am hoping that it prompts them to look into some of those things, right? So I cite some different books, work by Larry Dossey called One Mind. We talk about Dr. Emoto's work and Vita Austin's work in water and water memory. And so on one hand, I'm hoping people just enjoy the story. I'm hoping maybe a percentage of those people say, this is kind of interesting, and look into some of the other work of those folks.
It's deeper than just a story, right? And I think that you said you were questioning your place in the universe since your father had passed 14 years prior, and just kind of what the importance was and all that. And there is something that I get out of the book, and I hesitate to ask this, but I will, because that's what I do. I'll ask it because you talk about being a diabetic. So imagine you're on a cliff. I don't even know what the dimensions of this thing is, but I'm picturing something that may be 6 feet wide. I don't know.
No, well, it was actually, so there wasn't even really a ledge. It was, Walter, my dog, was on probably half the size of the cushion on your chair.
Oh, wow.
He was kind of half on that, half off of that. I wasn't not sure how he hung on there as long as he did. And then I had one foot kind of stuck in a crack in the rock, and then one foot was on a little twig of a tree that was kind of growing out from the cliff. And so there wasn't even really a ledge. The diabetes certainly came into play. My sugar was going down despite the stress. And so I had to call for my wife to throw me a Cliff Bar.
And then the whole, just how's she going to get it over, and what's going to happen, and how do I do it, that if I'm reading, I mean, like all these things, and it's so, you're right there in that moment, but all these things that you start to think like, well, I'm bigger than, I think those moments, those scary moments, and you hear people who have had the near-death experience. I don't know that that's exactly what that is, but damn close. Inches? Centimeters? I don't know. I think you start to kind of take a little stock in, well, what's really happening here?
Right.
What's really happening here?
Yeah, the difference between my experience and a near-death experience, right, is I didn't actually die.
Right.
And so And perhaps Scott will talk a little bit more about that when we get to talking about some of that stuff. I think it's kind of equivalent to awe, right? If you've ever been on top of a mountain or whatever gives you awe, whatever gives you that sense of awe, there's plenty of research now that suggests that, this sense of awe being, that being part of something bigger has tremendous therapeutic effects. And I think that's what I felt. I wouldn't have chosen to feel it that way, but I think that's what it was.
Yeah. I think that I would agree with that. As you're saying that, I was just thinking I was having a discussion with my sister who's into, I want to say this, but life. And she was telling my son about the power of meditating with other people, only because, and he was like, I don't know if I could do that. And I was thinking, I don't know if I could do that. And she said, it's just that the energy is higher and you tap in. And I think my kid went, yeah, but then they can read your thoughts. And she said, no, they can't. No one can. But it just helps you. And just as the collective. But you're right. We feel bigger responsibility. I think one of the things that I took, and I don't know if this was even a purpose, but I see you, Dr. Rice, as a guy who's making hay while the sun shines, if that's fair to say. The idea of how the diabetes in your mind is almost a shot clock. I don't know if that's fair to say or not, but you're doing the 46 with your daughter because for two reasons. One is she's going to sort of grow out of wanting to spend time with dad so much, and the other is I don't know how my body's going to be. And I think that's amazing. I think that we should all think that way because the journey ends, right? The journey ends, at least here, and then where you go next is different. But what do you want to do while you're here?
Yeah. Well, yes, and right. One of the things that, and we'll probably talk about Dr. Deep at some point during the podcast, but one of the things he talked about during his last visit to the St. John Fisher University was this idea of meditation and mindfulness not being about completely being in the moment. It's about recognizing. It's almost more like driving, right? You know where you've been, you know where you're going, and you're cognizant of everything that's around you in that moment, right?
Right.
And I think that takes a lot of practice, and I think I don't know. I probably am trying to make hay while I can, and. I think you and I are in a similar place in that regard, right? We get to a certain point in our life where it's
like I got to go now.
Yeah, like
I don't know why. I thought about
screw it, right? Like that book, right? The War of Art.
Yep,
right?
The War of Art.
That's resistance is so real.
It is,
right? And so
it becomes lazy. Like I could feel it today, and because I had done it for a while and then stopped for a while, and then I saw you guys, and Scott said, Dr. McGuinness said to me,
we should do first names in here. Right?
Scott, I don't know. I don't know. I just look at it this way. You guys have done something I haven't done, and I think it should be recognized. That's pretty impressive.
My students generally don't. I want my students to call me Dr. Rice, but every once in a while, they'll say it, and I'm like, oh my God, you respect me.
Yeah.
And I'll say that out loud in front of everyone.
It's a lot of work to get a doctorate. It's a lot. I watched my sister do it. It's a lot. My dad.
I don't know that it's the same though. When I went through school, I definitely even Tom and Gene and all my mentors, I called them Dr. Williams and Dr. McCabe and right up until I finished my doctorate. I don't know that our students definitely don't. They might probably the culture that we've created, partly the culture.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It might be a little more casual that they're feel free to talk because it is a psychology classes, right? I mean,
I think
counseling.
Counseling. I think there's both sides. There's two sides to it.
Yeah, taking everybody comfortably. Well, I only say it because I just think that it is an impressive thing to do, and I have people in my family who have done it, and I know how much how much work goes into that. How much time, effort, money, all that.
Money for sure.
Yeah, money.
Definitely wouldn't want to do it again. That's for sure.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't have done it if we knew what we were getting into. It's one of those things where you look back and you're like, all right, I did that.
Yeah, but it's a little bit of pride, a little bit of accomplishment. I've got something, that I did, and many people don't. How many people drop out of these programs and just end with a master's and just decide that's enough?
A lot of ABDs, a lot of all but dissertations.
Yeah,
that's
once you get dissertation, right?
Yeah.
I
have a funny story about meditating together before I forget, and we get too far off of that. So you've met Gene, Dr. McCabe.
Yeah.
It's the breakfast group that we have, everyone, the Wise Council that we get together with every so often. couple iterations ago, Gene suggested that we do a body scan together. So basically, and it sounds like something inappropriate, but it's not. They came in to our house, and there's this guy Dan Siegel who is excellent researcher, author, talks a lot about mindfulness, and he guided us on this body scan where you go through different parts of your body and really experience them in the moment, separate. And we're laying down trying to do this together. And I remember thinking to myself, so I invited my friends over for a nap.
But you're supposed to go through and think about each part of your body, right? As you feel it, kind of. And I don't know. I never know what the right amount of time to do with that. I've had one person on Billightenment who says, just meditate for 3 minutes to really get into it and ask the question, what do I need to know today? Yeah. And then I've read 15 minutes was always my norm. And sometimes I feel like my brain just lately has been this, where you're talking about being in the moment. And I always think that if you can just kind of get down to the moment, that silence.
One breath.
Yeah. But it doesn't always get there for me. I don't know.
I'm not great at it either, but the one breath thing is I can do it for a moment, right? It's like what's the country singer? Not as good as I once was.
Oh yeah, Toby Keith.
Yes, right.
Love
so
that song. I always loved that song.
I'm not great at it either, but I can do it for a breath. I can do it for a moment, and sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, sometimes that is enough. Well, Dr. McGuinness does a lot of different things. Do you want to talk about the course you guys are creating? Where do we want to kind of
when we talk about the course, I think it's pretty neat. And I'm grateful that we're able to do it, and that's a big thanks to Rob and our dean for allowing that to happen in our nursing school.
We'll take a break here, and we'll come back and hear some really forward-thinking things that are happening at St. John Fisher University with Dr. Rob Rice and Dr. Scott McGuinness. It's Billightenment right after this. Ready to transform your life in 2025? Well, then I want you to go see my friend Sheila Tillich. She's Western New York's renowned expert in quantum healing and energy work. Whether you're feeling stuck or maybe you're seeking deeper personal growth, Sheila partners with you every step of the way through her specialized services, including Reiki, chakra healing, and quantum DNA therapy. Sheila helps you unblock energy pathways and embrace new opportunities. Her gentle guidance opens doors to healing, connection, and profound personal transformation. Make 2025 your breakthrough year. Visit SheilaTillich.com and discover how Sheila's expertise can help you create the positive changes you've been seeking. Your journey to wellness and renewal begins with my friend, Sheila Tillich. If you're feeling stressed, dealing with some aches and pains, MJ Dispensary's got you covered. They're located at 900 Jefferson Road in Henrietta. They're your local experts in relief and relaxation. Listen, if you want to kick back and start 2025 on the right foot, their knowledgeable bud tenders are ready to help. Just walk in, share what you're experiencing, and they'll guide you to the perfect solution. And here's the best part. They deliver. That's right. Comfort comes straight to your door. Stop by MJ Dispensary. Check out their stocking stuffers. Get personalized care. Visit them online at mjdispensary585.com. That's mjdispensary585.com or in person at 900 Jefferson Road in Henrietta in the Regional Market, Suite 902. And be sure to tell them Billified sent you to MJ Dispensary. We're here with Dr. Rob Rice and Dr. Scott McGuinness, who are introducing an elective course at St. John Fisher University. And I would ask, how did you pitch this course when it was just an idea?
I mean, for me, it was really easy. I said, hey, Rob, is this okay if we do this? And he was like, sure, why not?
Some of the benefits of having someone who doesn't, with a lot of ambition who doesn't know what he's doing.
It's the greatest thing in the world.
But what we were trying to come up with was a course that talked about some of these methods of healing that sometimes end up on the periphery. If you look in academic literature, sometimes they're referred to as complementary treatment methods. Sometimes it's complementary and alternative treatment methods. There are universities out there, like University of Arizona, for example, and also some pretty heavy hitters in terms of research hospitals like Mayo Clinic out in Rochester, Minnesota, that are really interested in some of those complementary methods. And what we were talking about, things like energy healing, things using hypnosis, acupuncture, anything else that is a wellness modality that you can put in there that is hopefully going to have some kind of positive effect for somebody.
So, wow, that isn't taught anywhere really that I know of. And as you're saying this, I remember I thought some of the hospitals around here were doing migraine centers for migraine headaches. That was soft music, soft lighting, and breath control, and trying to get you into a place. Sometimes medicine was needed, if it were even intravenously, for people who had really bad migraines. But I remember being in there twice, once with my wife at the time, and I think maybe for myself, and it was just impressive. It was just different, right? That's normally not. It's bright lights and a doctor and a lab coat going, well, try this. You know what I mean? And that, I thought that was different. I like seeing that there's some acceptance of that. And certainly it seems like, at least with acupuncture, more the Eastern world had always accepted this sort of stuff. And yet the Western, I don't know why sometimes we shy away from that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that can be said about that, and we could certainly go down a rabbit hole talking about those things. Just differences in cares of modality and philosophy and the way we operate with healthcare here versus in other areas. Might be a good time to transition and talk about some of the things that Dr. Deep does, because there's an integration that seems like it's happening in India and different hospitals and schools with the Nadi water. So it's really a convergence of modalities when you're taking the East and the West. But there seems to be a separation here. I think one of the main things that I wanted our students to understand is that this doesn't have to be an either or, it's an and with. So if you've got the potential to heal through an Eastern method, absolutely take advantage of that. Help your clients pursue that if they're interested in it. If they have an opportunity to go down the traditional Western route, absolutely go down that path. The object is you want somebody to get better from whatever they're struggling with. And if you can achieve that with Reiki, something like that, great. If you can achieve that with standard pharmaceutical prescriptions, awesome. Go and do that. But opening the minds of some of our students who are there, who have an interest, but maybe just don't know where to go. So we can talk about some different methods and point them in the right direction. Like
with things like Reiki, I'll ask this because my mom's level 3. I don't know how many levels there are. Is there a master? There's only 3.
Well, 3, and then there's like
masters or something.
A little bit in addition to that.
So I had her do Reiki on me once, and I was telling you before Dr. Rice showed up that I couldn't. I was like, I was crying, but it wasn't boo-hoo. It was just flooding out of me. Like I couldn't stop. I couldn't even really see. I had to sit and wait like 10 minutes before, because it was right before I was going to drive back to Rochester, and I thought, well, that's weird. But I sometimes wonder, with that kind of healing, do we have to have a belief in our mind more so than the chemistry? Because the chemistry, like if I go and I get a pill for something, it works, but maybe it only works until I stop taking it and then I get sick again. I don't know. I'm trying to always think of that, because I think that natural energy healing is a very, very real thing, and it's here. But sometimes I wonder, and I think most of that comes from even like Jesus putting the ear back on somebody and going, don't tell them I did this, because they're going to put doubt in your head, and you're going to, and then it'll fall off. So that would be the mind, and I don't know where that all comes into play.
Yeah, I don't know that. Say if you go and get a Reiki healing, or we can talk about the Bengston healing method as well, that you have to have that belief that I'm going to get better from this immediately.
Yeah.
I think you're going to benefit from it, whether it is an actual energy event or if there's some sort of placebo healing that's going on right there. I'll talk about the Bengston method, just because I appreciate that there's an academic research base to it, where people in that modality were taken, or they were all biology majors, and they were trained to heal mice who had been injected with cancer. and all of the biology majors didn't have a belief that anything was going to happen. So the mice got better, and the biology majors at that point were wondering how that happened because they didn't think anything was going to happen to them. They didn't think anything was going to happen to the mice, but they all ended up getting better, and they really didn't want to have any kind of part in it. They were just kind of coerced to be a part of the experiment just to see what was going to happen.
And when you talk about this experiment with the energy and the mice, where's the energy? It's from us, from healers?
Yeah, it really depends on what modality we're looking at. So something like Reiki, there's this idea that it's coming from a universal source that never runs out. If you were to talk to Bill Bankston about where the energy is coming from, he said that he would probably tell you he doesn't have a great theoretical model for it.
Okay.
But he would say that he's seeing results with it.
Yeah.
So being able to put that together in terms of where it's coming from is difficult. This has
been one of the fun things for me about teaching this course with Scott. Yeah. And Scott's the primary teacher of this course. I do 1 credit, you do 2 credits. I think that's the breakdown, right? Yep. And so it's been, I think one of the fun things about the course, and I think one of the things the students really appreciated about the course is, Scott's got this great background in these energy healing modalities. Mm-hmm. He's seen, he practices this. He's gotten good outcomes. I'm more interested in the kind of contemporary science around this stuff, right?
Yes.
We're going from a place where we're, really focused on things at the molecular level to now a place where, we're able to look at things at more of a quantum level, right? And so that stuff fascinates me. And so the goal of the course is to really integrate and weave what people have been doing and the outcomes they've been getting and how they've been doing that with what we're learning in quantum science right now and what we think that means about how this works.
So I think that we live maybe more in the Western world as a society in a see it, touch it, feel it, then I believe it kind of world. So if we see the science that's working, I wonder if more people are becoming, because I went down to my sister's for Christmas, and I have a 10-year-old nephew and a 12-year-old niece. And my 10-year-old nephew asked me if I would bring some naughty water.
Awesome.
Because I had brought everybody naughty water the year before. And I said, absolutely. And he goes, and my sister said, just a starter thing, even if we can fill it and add other water to it. I said, no problem. So I do that. And then my 12-year-old niece has all kinds of questions, but very analytical in that she's saying to me, so you can't change the molecular makeup of water. So is it still water? Because it would be like a slush of it. And I said, no, there's energy. And then, so I'm listening, and I said, when you freeze water, you'll see the patterns of energy that are somewhat chaotic. And then when it's not healed, but when naughty energy is I was just going to say interviewed, and that's not the word, integrated. Integrated into the water, you start to see connective patterns, right? You would see more circular.
So Vita Austin. So for people who are interested in this stuff, I would look up Vita Austin. She has some really cool work looking at intelligence and memory of water. Builds on previous work from Dr. Emoto, who had some really
from Japan.
Very interesting book. Took some creative liberties in publication, which is raised some skepticism around his work, and then Vita Austin kind of took it and tried to apply some more empirical methods to it, and but still very artistic and open-minded to water. And so she's done some really cool experiments, including with naughty water. Dr. Deep and her spent some time together and did a number of experiments where they would take tap water and they would freeze it and examine the crystals, and then take that same tap water and charge it with naughty and freeze it again. And consistently, the charged naughty water would freeze, and there would be a image of a lotus on the water. And so nurses at St. John Fisher University have started to repeat this experiment because we've got the naughty rod at St. John Fisher University, and Dr. Deep came and trained people on the Nadi approach. And so we've had nurses repeat this experiment, and they're sending me pictures all the time of their tap water before and after freezing. And same thing. It's I'll have to at some point I'll send you some pictures and you can put them on the website or something.
I like that because so as my niece is now she's getting like annoyed with me and she's coming at me hard and she's 12 and I'm going, okay, I'm feeling like a dummy here, but I said they're doing Harvard University, I believe MIT has done some stuff.
Yep.
Maybe something.
Columbia.
I thought there was some place in the West
St.
Coast. St. John Fisher for sure, university. And I said there is an energy in it, and I said something about uncoded DNA.
Yep.
And how junk DNA and how we're finding it. And then I got a whole lecture on you don't want to wake that up because we have turned that off for a reason. You don't want to bring back these diseases and things that are in that DNA. And I'm going, okay. So I tried to just yes and because I didn't at this point now the 12-year-old is speaking above my intelligence. I have no idea. But I am such a believer. I believe the Nadi water absolutely has energy and healing properties and holds an intelligence. But I think water as a whole, right?
And again, I think Scott and I will have different perspectives on this, but hopefully complementary perspectives on this, right? Scott would can talk more about this in a healing setting. From a scientific perspective, one of the things I've gotten a chance to do since meeting Dr. Deep is interview global experts. So I went through a period of time where I interviewed people from Cambridge and from Harvard and from UCLA in different modalities. One person was a cerebral spinal fluid scientist, and he studied how Nadi water, when infused into cerebral spinal fluid, would change the dynamic of how that cerebral spinal fluid was absorbed and what it did. And he looks at all the different sensors and stuff in our nervous system that respond to cerebral spinal fluid. And then that was Dr. Mauro Zapatara. And then Dr. Madan Thangalavu from Cambridge, he's a genetic scientist, and he studied this junk DNA. Mm-hmm. So he's looked at how Nadi water and other forms of energy healing can actually activate and deactivate certain genes, in particular this junk DNA that we didn't really understand how it worked before.
Okay. It's amazing to me, and I love knowing that there are, for those who are maybe more skeptical, the science behind it.
That's where
I think that changes people a little bit, right? Because again, see it, touch it, feel it, world, the reality. But anything I have become such a believer that we live our life in our head and our mind and our perspective.
You just read another book that we talked about that gets on that a little bit, right? Don't believe everything that you think.
Yes. And right. And that even goes back to, because I had for a while read a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who was kicked out of Vietnam, and but very interesting. And along the same lines of, at least that was sort of my introduction into all this. I don't know what I call it. I just think it's life. I think it's real and it's there, and you have the power, and whether or not you decide to tap into that is kind of your choice.
One of the reasons it's cool is because we don't have words for it, right? And that's one of the reasons why it's hard to really teach about some of this stuff. Is there aren't words to explain some of these things. I think we're finding them. We're coming to a place where we're able to understand it a little better, but maybe we're not supposed to. I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to. Am I allowed to just sit in on a class? I'd love to.
Absolutely.
I would love to just see and just hear. I think that sounds. I think it's really interesting, and I love that the School of Nursing is open. I love that St. John Fisher University is open to all of this. They've been very accepting.
The dean's been super supportive. We had every time Dr. Deep's come, she's arranged for him to present. And now we've got a training that Scott's organizing this summer.
Yeah, we're working on bringing more energy healing modality trainings to our students, and hopefully that's going to happen within the near future. So we've had a number of students go off and pursue their own energy healing training after that class in particular, just because they had some really neat and interesting experiences while they were in there. So rather than have them go off to other universities or training centers, just let's start bringing more things in. So that's my...
What is... May I ask what healings will...
Well, right now, I would love to have a Bankston healing training at St. John Fisher University.
Bankston was what? Reiki? I don't.
It's
just his own thing.
It's a separate modality. William Bankston was a tenured professor of sociology and just an incredible statistician. And he had an interest in healing, and he ended up meeting a healer years and years ago, and this healer was somewhat afraid of their powder that they had. Yes. So Bill was able to take that method, test it in a laboratory setting, saw some really, really interesting results with that, and that's where this line of academic publications started to come from, injecting mice with cancer and seeing cancer remit in those mice, and then going off and training people how to do it, and having really interesting anecdotal results with inflammatory conditions, assorted cancers, things of that nature.
So you would train students or anybody who takes the course.
Yeah, well, what I would say is we would bring in the trainers who are doing it every day, who are really enmeshed in whatever method that they're using, and then just make that available for students, make that a little bit more accessible, because it can be it can be intimidating if you're going into that world and you don't really know which direction to go, because there are so many different healing modalities out there between Reiki and quantum touch and healing touch and the Bankston method, past life regression hypnosis, all of those things.
Yeah.
So, Nadi, of course. Yes.
So the Bankston method would be possibly, I'm asking this, taught at St. John Fisher University. That would you at the end be yourself a Bankston healer?
With the way that their training is set up, you don't walk away with a certificate saying I am like an officially approved Bankston healer.
Right.
That's different than something like Reiki, where you get certificates at the end where you can say I'm Reiki 1, 2, 3,
right.
1, 2, or 3. But you can say that you did the training and you've been practicing, but there isn't any official, you're a certified Bankston practitioner. You can read his book as well, The Energy Cure, and get all of the same information. And he goes through the method at the back of the book, just how to practice it and implement it. And you don't necessarily need somebody there to coach you or to be a mentor, but it's extremely helpful if you have that.
What attracted you to all this over the years? Because you are, may I say, you are a Reiki healer, I believe.
Yep, that's one of the trainings that I do have in my background. So my mother was the one who actually introduced this world to me, where she was a nurse for 40 years, and she had a surgery where she was just in an absolute ton of pain. And sidebar, she is allergic to everything, every medication out there. And as a result, I am allergic to everything. And one anesthesiologist described us as his worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Prior to me getting my ACL repaired, just because there wasn't anything I could take. But she had a surgery. She was in a ton of pain, but noticed that she could put her hands on her body in different places and start to create this healing effect. And from there, she just started doing a little bit of investigation related to hands-on healing, and she felt that she was guided toward meditation and toward Reiki, and then she just started reading books about Reiki and found her own trainer, and she went all the way up to the master level, and then she attuned me to Reiki, and then trained me all the way to the master level as well.
I mean, when we go back through like the history of mankind, there have been healers all through. There's been talk of this energy. I often now listen to songs and feel like we're missing the message sometimes, even pop songs. There are songs, I just heard one the other day, I go, oh man, you've been pounded with this message. You're just not hearing it for whatever
You're a
reason.
lyric guy too.
Yeah. Love
Yep.
lyrics.
Yep, me too.
And it's strange because all of a sudden I go, wait a second. Someone's been trying to tell us about that there's more to our existence and there's more to this than we're buying in, you know, because you get here and you get caught up in the drama and you're told you got to grind it out and you got to work real hard and you got to get a job and you know, and all this stuff. And you start to go, oh, boy, this doesn't sound like any fun at all. And yet there's been people all along and shaman and different, you know, levels of I don't even know, but they would say this same thing and try to teach you that you have everything you need to survive within you and here on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, you get back to that book, The War of Art, right?
Yeah.
Musicians are a great example of that too. You know, the musicians have this an incredible ability to really harness the muse, right? That energy that create natural creative energy, where you're getting ideas that you don't even realize that you had them before, right? Like they call them idiomorphs, I think, where you've got the idea that ideas themselves are alive, right?
Right.
That everything we need to know is around us, and that
right.
we're absorbing it more like lungs breathing in oxygen than the creators of consciousness, right? And those things come out all the time in music for that reason. I have several clients who are autistic savants,
Yeah.
right, who are able to play the piano like trained pianists after, you know, sitting down at the piano for just like the first or second time, right? And so for me, that's evidence, again, from more of a scientific perspective, that, you know, there's something going on there where there's certain people who are able to tap into this and able to really harness this creative energy. And so, yeah, music is a great example of that.
Yeah, that is a great example. And a lot of times you'll hear musicians say things like, I sat down and I wrote the song in 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
I don't know where it came from.
Right. I don't know where it came from. And then the others will say, I've had this riff forever. And then all of a sudden it just fit here,
Yep.
you know? And it's just, it's strange, but I think all of us can have that. I'm starting to believe there are no such things as coincidences at all.
I'm with you. I think that, yeah.
Likewise.
I could not remember the name of the book, Don't Believe Everything You Think.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never read it, but I saw it. I was looking for gifts for guys who I do this, you know, Billified with. And I looked down at the bottom and I saw that and I go, ooh, that's great. And then I pop it up. I'm reading about it. I go, this is fascinating. And we had the Wise Counsel breakfast at your house, which are very kind to open up to us heathens. And you come in there and make a mess. And then I was going to leave there and go buy the book. And I went, oh, man, I didn't write down the title of that book. I can't. And out of nowhere, you came out and go, you know, what really helped me write my book was this book. And I let out oh, my God, that's the book.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, and it's those, and we pass by these things in life and go, it's coincidence, you know, we call it serendipity, whatever, and on we go. And I'm going, no, I was supposed to get that book.
Yeah, well, this is where it can get really weird, right? Because this is from the way I'm thinking about things these days, and it's been helpful for me, but it's abstract, right? It's because it's all already happened, right?
Yeah.
There's no, you know, if we think of if we eliminate linear time and try to experience these things as just a process, right?
Right.
Then we could, you know, those things they're all happening at once, and it's like a prompt from the future coming to remind us that there's something that we're supposed to do.
Yeah. I would even okay. So prompt from the future that's coming to tell us something we ought to do. Yeah, because it was interesting. Dr. McGuinness came in, we started talking, and I said, I can't remember your last name. And then he told me, and I go, how can I ever forget it? It's my favorite beer. But he said to me something about, you know, how you and I had connected. And I said it was through the podcast, but it was one of these things that you know, sometimes it's transitions in life can be, you're resistant to it. It's a little rocky. And I often think, I go, man, that was one of the best things to come out of this. Like being part of the Wise Counsel, I love it. I've never ever. I thought, man, that's one of my absolute favorite things.
You're a great addition.
I hope so, because I go, I'm the only
people out. You made the cut.
I go, I am the least educated in that group, and probably
there's all different kinds of education.
Yes, of course. But I went, wow, I find it fascinating. Like it is honestly, and my dad loves it. I'll tell him about it.
I'd love to meet your dad.
Yeah,
sometime.
he's a very interesting and brilliant guy. You know, did philosophy and all. But I think maybe as he's gotten older, a little more open to this sort of thing?
People tend to, I think, as they get older, and that's probably, I'm sure Scott might have some thoughts on that phenomenon as well. But in terms of coincidences, looking back to when we first, met and I did the podcast, and I think I told you this story, but I was visiting Dr. Deep in New York, and that was a wild experience in and of itself. We were, he invited me to have dinner, and so I went to this place where he was doing a healing, and it was this amazing penthouse in New York. Nothing I'd ever been in before. I was definitely a fish out of water, and there were scientists from Columbia there talking about this and talking about how to best study this phenomenon. And the next night he invited me to dinner, and it was the ambassador to Pakistan for the United Nations it was his house, which is where, and we had amazing talks about how some of these things are happening around the world. And so I'm walking out of there, going back to my hotel room, thinking about, just inspired and thinking about, who do I need to share this with? Who do I need to, other people need to know about this? Who's not going to think that I'm crazy? And I look up, and I was right beneath a sign that said Moran's Pub.
Yep. I remember you sent me the picture.
And so, I took a picture of it and sent it to you. I'm like, Bill, I think that you're supposed to be part of this.
Yeah, I've been very accepting of it all, and I feel like I've benefited tremendously.
We have too. It's been a great connection.
We'll take a time out here and have more of our discussion with Dr. Rob Rice and Dr. Scott McGuinness of St. John Fisher University on Billightenment right after this. Iron Smoke Distillery hopes you're ready for a week of incredible live music and delicious craft cocktails on the stage that whiskey built right here in Fairport, New York. Tonight, Wednesday, January 8th, Rosewood Station brings their signature acoustic vibes from 6 to 9. I want you to grab a handcrafted cocktail. I suggest the Peacemaker, and let the music sweep you away. Come back on Thursday. A little bit of an acoustic showcase. That's Thursday, January 9th. It'll be Matt Stevens and friends for an intimate evening of local talent serving up smooth tunes alongside Iron Smoke's smooth spirits from 6 to 9. And then Friday night, I'm calling it a double feature. January 10th, beginning at 5. Milligan's Island makes their acoustic debut at Iron Smoke Distillery. I love the name. And then later that evening, I want you to experience The Song Remains the Same, a tribute to the music of Led Zeppelin, all on the stage that whiskey built, along with their award-winning Iron Smoke spirits. Located in historic Fairport, New York, baby, Iron Smoke Distillery is your destination for extraordinary spirits and unforgettable nights. And their master mixologists will make sure of that. Come float into 2025, where every sip tells a story, don't it? And every night brings a new adventure. Iron Smoke Distillery in Fairport, New York, baby. In the 2 years since I've created Billified, I have tried to partner with people who do great things in the community and have an excellent reputation. And that's why I am happy that Connors & Ferris continues to support Billified. At Connors & Ferris, they've spent decades helping people just like you navigate workers' compensation, Social Security disability, and personal injury claims. Led by Greg Connors and Tom Ferris, their skilled attorneys do more than just handle your case. They guide you through every step with compassion and dedication, making complex legal processes simple and, most importantly, stress-free. Why let the system overwhelm you? Let their experience work for you. Call 262-COMP today. Connors & Ferris, securing the benefits and compensation you deserve. Connors & Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 262-COMP. That's 262-COMP. Thank you for listening to Billightenment with our guests, Dr. Rob Rice and Dr. Scott McGuinness. As we're talking about getting older, and it does seem like as our journey, our human journey, starts to wind down, people become more accepting of something greater than themselves and greater than everything. Why do you think that is? And I'll go to you, Dr. Scott McGuinness. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that plays a big part of it. You think of our regular progression for the average person. It's, you go to school, you try to get as good of grades that you can, and then you find a job, you work really hard, you establish yourself, you have a family, you buy a house. And then at some point after 25, 30 years of just doing the same thing, the grind, as we all call it, You might start to wonder why. You might start to wonder if there's anything more beyond that grind, and just trying to find whatever that may be. I had a conversation in the not too distant past with somebody who had now retired, and we were talking about vortexes in Sedona, Arizona. And this is a person who I never thought I would have a conversation about energy with, but they were really interested in that phenomena. And they visited there, got a piece of jewelry for their daughter, brought it back for their daughter, and just started talking about energy. And I think that they just created more space in their life to be accepting of that idea at that point, to explore just different possibilities. So it could be a combination of factors that I've done the grind. I want to see what other meaning is out there and what this is really all about.
I've got a theory on that too.
Sure.
When people get really sick or start to lose their health, that's when they tend to pray.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had this conversation with Dr. Thangaloo from Cambridge, and this is just this idea of how it's kind of ironic that some of the same people who really discount energy healing and this type of approach are the same people who, as soon as they get sick, are going to go to church.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so I think we have something natural within us that when we aren't well, I think our body knows. I think that it knows that what it needs, and it seeks it out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way, but you're right. And what's also interesting as you're saying that, because they go, well, you would go to church, what healing power is there? Prayer, and then it would be God. But we also have holy water.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Again, water. I'm just saying, like, but it's something there that would be either blessed by the divine or something that's supposed to, keep you there. I was always a little grossed out that everybody's hand went into it.
That sponge was pretty nasty at the bottom of the bowl.
It's like, wait, I just saw you picking your nose. But
it's like alcohol. It sanitizes.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Right. That I'm not familiar. You said Sedona. I've heard it before. You mentioned vortex. I think that we all have a vortex, and in our vortex is 3 lifetimes worth of things that are coming to us, but it's over there, and you've got to find the right vibration, which sounds maybe strange to some people, but I always think that the frequency, and I've even gotten so weird now that I think that when we die, that we are just on a different frequency.
Yeah, that very well could be.
We had this conversation with Deep at my house that one morning, and he talked about the light energy and the death energy. And we had, I forget who asked about death, but Deep goes, "Oh, death is so beautiful," and that's when he went on that. We have the transcript from that, right? And so, I mean, we don't think you're weird. You're talking to the you're talking to the right people.
Yeah, I just think that there's a different frequency in there, and that it's all here, but we're just not tapped in, tuned in, and I feel like things, we've had many teachers come, right, over the years, probably the best known Jesus, only because, the Bible and the religions have come off of that. But they're all, they put a lot of, it's like they put a governor on everything he was teaching you. You know what I mean? You slow it down. There are these rules. You're going to be punished. No.
Yeah, I remember getting so upset when I found out that I was skipping meat on Fridays for most of my life, because there was a pope at some point who had a brother who was a fisherman, and they wanted to get the fish industry going better, so they said no more meat on Fridays, and so everybody started. Did you know that?
No.
I remember getting so angry about that. Because I grew up, I went to Catholic schools, grammar school, high school.
Where did you learn that? Why didn't I know that? I'm disappointed in myself.
Well, now you
I eat pepperoni pizza but I was Catholic to the age of 7, and then more Protestant, which became such a big deal that my grandfather wouldn't talk to my mom for a year because, Southern Ireland and Catholicism. And I go, boy, no, God would not love your no.
I think there's ways to integrate this too, right?
Yes,
that's where I'm at now, and we have these conversations at our breakfast meetings, right? I'm still consider myself Catholic. Sometimes I'll say recovering Catholic, but not around my mother. I had that written in the book at one point, and I took it out because I'm like, I know my mom's going to read this. But I think there's ways to integrate this, right?
Yeah.
And Jesus talks about the Holy Spirit, right? The Holy Trinity, and so I'm often thinking about, where does water play a role in that, right?
Huge.
Like, and how does some of these natural phenomenon and all this quantum stuff that's going on, maybe Jesus was teaching about these things, and we just take it and we run our own story.
I believe that, and I believe that it's we are made in that image, and you have what many people will say on a base level, your gut feeling or your intuition. I think that's God. I think that's what's telling you. And a lot of times when you think, oh, that didn't work out, well, maybe because you're trying to be led over here, but you're so stubborn. And I always think that you're so loved that no matter what, unconditional love is one of my favorite terms, because I always think it is one of the most impossible things for human beings. Maybe not. Maybe there's going to be somebody who's going, oh. No, but unconditional. Everything has a condition. I'd love you, but you're doing this. Or I love you, but man, I get mad. And I always think the universe loves you so much that no matter what you believe, it supports.
One of the things I've heard you say on the radio, which I have appreciated, and again, in terms of your frequency comment, and it's one of the things I think you bring to the table, right? You've got this history in radio and broadcasting, and you understand things from that perspective, right? And so I think that's all important, and probably part of the reason why you're able to engage in these conversations and think about things this way. I lost my train of thought a little bit, but one of the things that you say that I often appreciate is that you think that sometimes when children are born with severe disabilities and things like that the purpose is to teach us what unconditional love looks like. And I love that idea.
I do, because I think that I don't think creation ever gets it wrong. I don't know if that's even tell that to somebody who's right, and would never want to upset someone. But at the same time, because there are difficulties and challenges and things, but boy, there's an unconditional love there. And I think one of my favorite things that you've said to me about autism and our awareness of it now is its evolutionary.
Same thing, right? Like, I'd be careful not to say, like, if I'm sitting with a parent of a child who is severely impacted by that disability, and or it sees it as a disability, there's some controversy and disagreement around even whether or not it should be considered a label or a disability. But when I'm sitting with a parent who's really struggling with a child who has autism, I probably wouldn't say that, right? I don't want to minimize
100%.
But when I'm sitting with most of my clients, who tend to be neurodiverse folks,
right?
I think they really appreciate that, and I think there's something to it, right? There's so many the strengths and skills of the neurodiverse folks who I work with fit so well with where the world and society seems to be moving in terms of technology and being detail oriented. And I hate to think this, but social skills maybe aren't quite as important as they used to be.
Right.
Maybe we need to recapture them in some ways, but if nothing else, a lot of these folks are finding really, really successful pathways.
Yes,
and they're doing some amazing things in this world that we're in now.
Right. I wanted to ask you, and I don't know. First of all, I don't want to hit on anything or miss anything you want to mention either about the course.
I'm just looking forward to having a conversation. Okay. We'll continue this in a couple Fridays.
But here's one of the things, and I think, Scott, you're more of this thinking too, that there's, I was always taught, and I even think in my church as a kid, they would say it would be selfish to think that we're the only creation, that there aren't aliens or anything like that, which was always something. But there are those that believe the thing that, I think, what are we, one chromosome away from a certain kind of chimpanzee or something? Yeah. I went to the zoo and I made the joke that it looked exactly like Uncle Joe. It just looked like Uncle Joe back there. But somewhere that in the stars that there was others, and there are those who are saying 2025 their contact will be made.
I mean, I have.
I don't know if you've ever
no
heard.
idea.
No idea.
Whether or not 2025 would be the year where contact is made. It's a interesting idea.
But the stars and the fact that there are other beings that are out there, I don't think it's that far fetched.
No, I don't think it's that far fetched either. I would hope that there would be more mystery and intrigue to our human experience, that we'd be able to interact with other beings like that. Other beings that are different from us, and learn how to live in concert or learn different lessons that way.
Yeah.
If it were ever going to happen, it seems like it would be now. I mean, that made
Yes.
we got drones flying over, car-sized drones flying over the Northeast. Nobody's talking about them or knows what they're about.
No.
I'm sure that they're man-made, but it seems like if aliens were going to come, we're at a point where we're like, all right, that happens.
I almost feel like I would be, unless like the old movies where the little green alien lands or whatever, we all run and scared, or whatever movies that were sort of sci-fi. I almost feel like people would shrug and go, yeah, that makes sense, and move on to whatever else is in their life.
It's like a slow leak. We're just getting a little information at a time, and then all of a sudden they're here. They've been flying over the Northeast. That's them. Don't worry about it. It's nothing nefarious.
We'll take a moment here to hear from our great sponsors and be back to talk about thoughts and how they direct our lives, and what are we under the influence of when we have negative thoughts versus more positive thoughts. All that coming up with Dr. Rob Rice and Dr. Scott McGuinness on this episode of Billightenment. New year, new projects. But why stress yourself out? Make 2025 the year you finally get it all done with the experts at Mac of all trades. The basement you've been dreaming about. Those tricky electrical jobs, drywall work, and perfect paint finish. Leave it to the pros, my friends, who do it right the first time. From stunning kitchen renovations to beautiful bathroom makeovers, Mac of all trades transforms your vision into reality. Need those hollow doors upgraded to gorgeous pine? They got you covered. Custom bookcases? Check. Handyman fixes? Absolutely. Full carpentry work? You bet. Whatever you can imagine, Mac of all trades can create it. Just ask me. I love what Mac of all trades did in our studio. Make the call that makes it happen. 585-202-9218, or visit them online at macofalltrades.net. Mac of all trades. You dream it, they build it. 585-202-9218 and macofalltrades.net. BTB Wood Fire Pizza and Grill in the mall at Grease Ridge is redefining happy hour with an amazing 7-hour celebration. You heard that right. Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. is the BTB Wood Fire Pizza and Grill happy hour. Imagine $3 tall domestic drafts, $4 well drinks, $5 Tito's all day long. And their friendly bartenders, Susie, Amy, and Michelle, are ready to make your day brighter, whether you're stopping in for lunch or having an early dinner. And while you're there, you've got to try what I am calling their famous meatloaf cupcakes. They are so good, topped with a fully loaded potato. You might want to take one home. You get 3, you may want to take one home for later. They taste just as good the next day. So whether you're shopping, meeting friends, or you just need a break, come get your drink on at BTB Wood Fire Pizza and Grill. Find them in the mall at Grease Ridge, where happy hour isn't just an hour, it's a lifestyle. BTB Wood Fire Pizza and Grill in the mall at Grease Ridge. Here's something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I was going to bring up the next time I saw you guys, is sometimes when we have thoughts, right? People, like I say, that thoughts really direct your life, directs your mood. I'm pissed off because whatever didn't work out, or I got this frustrating thing, or you know what I mean. All of a sudden, and sometimes I think that there's a momentum to that stuff. That, you know, for example, you get up in the morning and you stub your toe and you curse, and then you get in the shower and I don't know, you slip or something, and then it's out and you're spilling coffee on yourself, and the next thing you know, you just drove into the back of somebody, and it's a momentum that just keeps going.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Nothing ever works for me. That whole thing. I have come to start to ask myself, or catch that before it gets going, and say, what am I under the influence of right now? And I don't know if that's the right way to think of it or not, but by that I mean, like,
Are you coming from a Connery's, or are you just because there's different answers to that question.
That is a very fair point. No, I meant like, what am I under the influence of in that moment? Because I always think there's really just two things in the universe, maybe, love and fear. Right? I mean, we can get down to the basis of anything. Why are we not doing something? Why are we acting a certain way? It's because we're afraid we believe something that's going to happen and we don't want it to. And then we think about it, and then go, knew it was going to happen. And I have to stop sometimes and go, what am I under the influence of? And sometimes it makes me feel better in the shift. And it almost helps vibrationally. I don't know if you guys have similar feelings on that or think of that way, or?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about frequency earlier, and you mentioned vibration. So if you've got something like and Rob mentioned self-fulfilling prophecy, but if you've got a really negative thinking pattern, you're just going to continue to perpetuate that pattern and be in that frequency. You've got to find a way to break it and get up and raise yourself up to a more livable and positive frequency at that point. That's the way that I think about it.
Yeah, I always think the law of attraction. It's not your mom. Your mom would say, "Oh, honey, come here and let me make you better," but it just is going to bring more of what you're thinking. Change your frequency, change your thought process. What am I under the influence of? And I think sometimes it changes that.
There's a lot of work right now being done in the area of gratitude.
Yes.
Right. And I think that there's a lot of overlap between what you're saying and that work. At this point, the research is solid, right? Like if we think we know anything, it's that gratitude's a good thing. And it helps. It's good for mental health, that somehow the more grateful you are, the more good things tend to happen in your life. Like people have studied all of these. In fact, at Fisher, with some students, we create, and RIT as well, we recently created an app called Appreciation Ally. Yeah. And so you can actually get it on the App Store now, but it's in a beta version. We're finishing the research this spring, and we should have a final version out by this summer. But you can get it now if you wanted to. It's called Appreciation.
It's one more thing in Rob's resume, by the way. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I found it all really, really impressive. And I've seen the beta of this.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's based on an old app called Psych Me Up that was made by the APA. And so Psych Me Up was an app that had, it was a grid of 16 faces, and there'd be one smiling face. And the goal was to touch the smiling face find the smiling face and touch it as quickly as you could. And you'd move through, 10, 20 grids. And I would prescribe this to my clients routinely. I'd have clients who'd come in with depressive symptoms, and I'd talk about gratitude and the value of gratitude, and I'd give them this app. And inevitably, after they've used it for a couple of weeks, they would say, I think that I'm starting to notice more positive stimuli. I'm scanning my environment more for positive stimuli. And so, unfortunately, that app, it doesn't exist anymore, so we made our own, and we based it more on the more contemporary research around gratitude. And so this app is just, it's 4 images of different things people might be grateful for. There's images of the police officers, there's images of nature, there's images of sporting stuff and gaming stuff, and it'll pull up the grids, and the goal is to touch the image that makes you feel the most grateful, right? And so now we prescribe this to our clients at MindFit, and we'll tell them do 10 grids a day, and come back and let's talk about how you're feeling, if you're noticing yourself scanning your environment for more positive stimuli. And again, just like with the Psych Me Up app, people come back and say, I think that it worked. I think that I was so focused on how I was feeling and the negative emotions I was feeling that it was impacting everything that I was looking at around me. And when I forced myself in a way or encouraged myself and practiced the act of scanning my environment for positive stimuli, it really did make a difference. And so we do that. The app also has some other functions on it where people can think of 3 things that they're grateful for a day, other gratitude interventions that have been demonstrated as being effective in the literature. And we know through science that what you're saying is legit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I do that too. I have a whole weird morning routine, but I won't get into that. I want to go to what you're talking about, finding gratitude stimuli in your area, or things that you're grateful for.
Yeah, and in simple stuff, right? Like pants I don't need to iron, right? Clean water, right?
That's great, because I think it was Tony Robbins did these things where he tells people, close your eyes and think of everything red, right? Think of red, the color red, feel the color red. What does it feel like? Blah, blah, blah. Open your eyes, now find things that are brown. and you can't. You're finding red. But I think it's much the same thing in that find things that are grateful. And you're not really, you're struggling to find things that are brown, right? But you're seeing all the red. It's just coming at you. And I think when you get grateful, it just starts to come at you. It's there. You're just not seeing it. But when you focus, where your focus goes, right, is really how things work. And I think that's a great way. And I wish it would almost be taught instead of let's look for the color red. Let's find the things that we're grateful for because that's going to make you feel better. And though I have, I think it was Dr. Sugarman many years ago when he was the pediatrician for my kids, pulled me aside and said, go to therapy. Well, we were dealing with, much like you, Scott, one of my sons had severe allergies. Projectile vomiting off breast milk immediately, losing weight, had to go back to the hospital. We had to get a hypoallergenic formula from Britain to come in, and it was the only place you could get it. And as life went on, he's fine, right, and has his challenges, but it's fine. But it was he who said to me, "You go to therapy because if you're not well, if you're not in a good spot, you're not benefiting anybody else." And I think so often, I think the mentality in my family and my life was more of that's selfish, and I think that maybe we need to be a little more selfish. There's even some creative things that would say to you, I did a book many years ago, The Artist Way. I don't know if anybody's familiar with The Artist Way, and it's more about helping people break through and write, and you do different experiments and things in there. But one of the things was an artist date, and you took yourself on a date, which I know sounds really, really weird, but I love art. It's something I don't really talk about. I love classical music. I would go see the symphony by myself. I'd sit way in the back because I didn't want people to see me as this weirdo walking down. I would go to the museum. I would go up to botanical gardens and things. And I'm telling you, that stuff is so restorative. And when you talk about appreciation, you're just looking at it because you love it. There's nothing better. And those things I think are lost. But if I was married at the time, I wouldn't say where I was going because I knew it would piss her off. Well, it would piss anybody off. But hey, listen, I need a little while. I'm going to go take myself on a date. I'm going to have a delicious cup of coffee or a nice IPA or whatever, and I'm going to look at this stuff. You can't do it, but you should. But I really think you should.
I sent you that podcast that I think you listened to the other day, the Huberman Lab podcast.
I listened to it all the way back from Jersey.
And they talked about delights.
Yep.
Right? Like,
delights.
They liked that even better than gratitude because I forget how they worded it, but the idea was
I think much like you and I with manifesting, it became like a buzzword, and they were saying, but the delights are something that are a little easier because it's the small things like my pants that I don't need to iron.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and when we don't notice them enough, we don't pay any. There's always something to complain about, and there's always something to be grateful for, right? And if you can make the choice, and this is something you say a lot too, choose the better feeling thought.
Right.
For me, it's almost always on that continuum, right? It's either something I can complain about or something I can be grateful for, and if I'm conscious enough that I can make that choice, I'm trained myself to be grateful.
So that's why I've started asking myself, what am I under the influence of? Because sometimes when I get mad at myself, when I go, well, choose the better feeling thought. Well, I can't right now because this is what is in my head, and then I'll have to go, well, what am I under the influence of? What am I? What's really happening here?
What does this mean? What does this emotion mean, right?
Yeah.
And that it's temporary, right? Like, so it's okay to feel it and remember that it's temporary. It's like stubbing your toe, right? If you stub your toe, all you can think about for the next 5 seconds is how much your toe hurts, right? And then it passes every time, right? And emotions are the same thing. But we don't learn that. In the moment, we think this is the worst thing that could possibly happen.
We don't, and we repeat that pattern over and over and over because it becomes so familiar. And I have a son who can really feel things. I would love to know what, like, real energy stuff, if he's, I don't know, empathic. When we say empathic, some people just absorb everybody's energy, but I would think that's got to be problematic and exhausting at times.
Yeah, at least that's my understanding of what it means to be empathic. I feel like I have some of those qualities as well.
Yeah.
Picking up on other people's emotions really easily and just absorbing that, and it does weigh you down a little bit.
Yeah. Do you
to
learn
that.
to sort of stay above, recognize what it is, but stay above? I always use the term for many years, not really knowing, but play above the noise. In other words, the gossip in the office and stuff like that. Don't get caught up. Play above the noise.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot. And I also think it's, if you have a spiritual practice, learning what energetic boundaries are and how to establish that, so that way you can go into a crowded space and you can just exist and enjoy whatever medium you're pursuing in that crowded space. If you're out at a basketball game, or you're taking yourself on an artist date, whatever it may be. Learning how to
going on more artist date 5. That is going to be a thing. Yeah, I think that's true. Well, I bring up that he feels his emotions really intently and always has. So when he was a freshman, he would get so frustrated because he was losing in track meets and things, and that frustration was right at the surface, right there. And I used to say to him when we would walk, I would say, have dignity for yourself. Give yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. It doesn't matter. But I know in that moment, you don't want to look like the guy who's getting blown off the track. The guy can't do it. And I think those things may have motivated him. He's a hulking human being now.
I've seen him. Yeah.
And,
he's a stud.
Yeah. And but you at that time it was that. And I was just talking to him the other day and I said, remember when we did that? And he said, yeah. And I said, those feelings, what do they matter today? Not at all. I mean, those races, they have no impact on you other than maybe it was part of the motivation to change your body and you wanted to make yourself better. I guess that. I have I don't know if this goes so much with Billightenment, but I have a habit of every once in a while, I will just rewatch The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan.
Epic.
Scott, I watched that. I just did it again. And there's something, each time I watch it, I take something different away. And I love Phil Jackson's philosophies and the closing where it was The Last Dance and they went and wrote what this whole thing had meant and then burn it and do that. I'm even doing something where we wrote down on Christmas Eve 13 things that we would like to happen this year, as though, and I wrote it more in the present tense. I think everybody did. I'm so happy and appreciative now that. Right? And then whatever it is. And then each night you burn one until you're down to 2, and then without opening it, and then you burn without looking at it. And the last one is the one that you're supposed to focus on, and the universe will take care of everything else. I don't know. That's how weird I am.
Yeah, and I don't think it's weird.
I did it with my sister and my mom. We did that.
And I think those intense emotions, and in sports in particular, right? I think you can reframe those, right?
Yeah.
We do work with a lot of athletes as well, and young kids who aren't really into therapy or counseling, but they're into a sport and they're happy to talk to someone who's going to help them get better at the sport, right? Because that's not something that has the stigma around it. And a lot of the same skills that we teach to athletes are the skills that we would like other people to learn for regular life, right?
Yes.
And so anxiety, frustration, all those intense emotions, right? It means I care. Right, and that means you really care about this. Right?
Yeah.
And what would you rather be doing than something you care about? Right, and so in those moments, I think Michael Jordan's probably a great example of this. Right, he would purposely find issue in something that other people are. He would always had to have a grudge. Always had it.
Right? It gave him that edge, and I don't know if that's healthy or not. That's what I struggle with. He had to find a reason
to really care. I think he was such an elite athlete. Right, he was so good. Like the basketball wasn't even really a challenge for him anymore. He had to challenge himself in other ways, and so he found other ways to really care.
Yeah,
found other ways to really care about those moments and the negative emotions. Provided that for him in the same way that they come naturally to a lot of young athletes.
That's interesting because I also loved in that too where somebody said he is one of the people that is truly present where everybody else isn't. Like that last shot isn't even in his head. It's what's going on right at this moment.
Yeah, and he, in a different movie about him, Michael Jordan to the Max, he talked about the integration of Zen Buddhism, much to the influence of Phil Jackson, and how he, in his mind, has gone through scenarios and scenarios and scenarios so that he's not afraid to fail with it because he's already failed, but he's already succeeded with it as well. So for him to get into that last moment, it's just like he's already run through it, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And I'm going to put my best foot forward to make it successful. But if not, next play. You just let
Wow,
go.
I didn't know that. What's the name of that?
Michael Jordan to the Max. It was an IMAX movie that came out in the late 90s after his tenure with the Bulls, before the Wizards. Before Wizards, Jordan.
whatever that was. I mean, even they're not terrible. I always think underrated to me.
Yeah,
right.
I would agree.
There were some nights that were 50-point nights and different things like that.
There's that movie with Matt Damon too, where they what was the Nike movie?
Oh, the shoes.
Right, and in that movie he said that the reason he wanted Michael Jordan so bad for the Air Jordans ultimately was that game-winning shot he made in the national championship in college. He said he looked like he already knew he made it.
Yes, I did see that, and I didn't catch that when that happened. Yeah, there really is, which will go back sort of to your talk of time and how it's already done. Yeah.
I've already been here. I've already done this. When you
Right.
have a tough emotion, I've already done this. I can get through this. In fact, I already have. I know it sounds it's a tough one. It's hard
actually, as you're saying it, I'm sorry. I was like, that makes so much more sense than, because I've heard Dr. Deep say things like, it's all done, it's already done. And sometimes I feel real relief in the moment with him, and then he leaves. Yeah. And then all my stuff comes back like, wait a second, and I just, the way you just said it is like, and I've thought many times, well, you've done this before, right? You've done something like this before, but even that is not, all that reassuring. But the idea of, well, it's already done. You already did it. And I like the Michael Jordan with the shot, kind of thing is, well, whatever happens, happens. I'm going to do the best I absolutely can, but it doesn't mean anything. I've often say now things like, what is the meaning of life? Nothing other than the meaning you attribute to it. And the meaning you attribute to the moment, right? Nothing has any real meaning other than what you apply to it. And you can apply, and that's where like those intense feelings can come from. And that's why I often say, well, what am I under the influence of? And that'll kind of bring it back. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I definitely don't know the meaning of life. For me,
No.
When people ask me that question, I say it's about connections, and somehow love has got to be a big part of it, right? Like I think that we get back to the talk about unconditional love and kids with disabilities and some of those types of things, right? All the near-death experiences, books you read, all of the things that are more spiritual in nature that you read that are related to the things that we're talking about. They all speak of this kind of unconditional and undescribable love that they experience. And so it's try to reframe negative emotions in that way too, right? It's all love. All of these emotions are love focused in a different direction, right? I get more frustrated with my wife when something happens because I love her so much and I care so much about our relationship, right? Mm-hmm. I get so frustrated with a student who I know has a lot of potential because I really love what they're doing and love where they're going, right? If I've got a student who I'm not getting frustrated with or because when they're not doing as well as they could do, then I know that's a problem. It's the same kind of adage. You want your coach to be hard on you. Right? That means that they see potential in you. And so it's all. I think it all comes down to love.
I would say that is absolutely true. And we talk about the dark side of things, and these other stuff. I always think it's a privation of love, which is a very simple philosophical philosophy that I'm forgetting. I think it might have been St. Thomas Aquinas, that the being in everything is the being in me, is the being in the tree, and that evil is just the privation of good, because everything that comes from the universe or God has to be good and made in His image. And we get a little off topic.
Yes, I'm gonna. My mind's going towards like simulation theory now, so I'll back off.
We mentioned near-death experiences a couple of times here. But that idea of love that you were talking about just a moment ago, people who have had those positive near-death experiences say that they come back and they have felt that love in a way that they have never felt it before. Unconditional love that you were talking about earlier. And just that a sense of knowingness that it is all about love. And that's one of the main things that we're supposed to do when we're here is just refine how we do love. How can we integrate more love into the ways that we exist in the world? You check out Raymond Moody's books or one documentary that just came out called After Death about near-death experiences, or the book series Surviving Death, or the series on Netflix called Surviving Death. And the episodes about near-death experiences are incredibly similar in that they all say that I've just felt this incredible peace, I felt this incredible love, and it's really just all about love.
So I have come to believe that that's resistant free.
Okay, say more about that.
Meaning that we put so much resistance. When I say things like we get in our own way, we put resistance in our way that things, but in this life, in this journey, you need the contrast to show you what you don't want versus what you do want. But when we move into the next realm, the next frequency, it's resistant free. And the idea that you can have that here, and now I remember the song that I heard. It was like some dumb pop song from the 80s. Heaven is a place on earth.
Ooh, heaven is
Yes,
a
yes, which I never, ever thought of. But because of exactly that, Scott, that I come to, I don't know, I think that all those things, and I've talked to
Heart
people.
or the Mangles?
That's Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, look, at least he knew. I didn't remember. I thought it was the Bengals. I would have gone with that, or the Go-Go's, or something.
I was just naming every female rock band.
But I heard that, and I was like, it might have been on the 80s channel on Sirius, and I went, oh, we've been getting these messages all along, and that you can have that now if you just open yourself up, be more grateful, find the grateful things. Life could be a breeze for everybody. It's kind of your choice, I think. I'm coming to believe. I don't know.
There's another book called The Untethered Soul. Did you read that one?
No, but you've recommended it to me a couple of times. I haven't added it to the stack yet. But
I'm saying it speaks to that point, right? It talks
Yeah.
a lot about how we can experience that on Earth. I struggle with it. Like I appreciate it, and I think I'm getting better as I get older at having moments where it actually feels like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm living resistance free in this moment.
Yeah.
Right. I would, like you said before, I don't
thoughts
know
are
that
resistant.
we're not supposed to always be that way right now.
No,
Right?
and I think the contrast shows you what you do want and what you don't want, and what, go more towards this, what the better feeling thought.
Did I show you
feeling.
the image, the picture of quantumly entangled photons?
No.
Can you Google it?
Yeah.
Google a picture of quantumly entangled photons.
Quantumly entangled photons. Okay.
And you should just say images. What does it look like?
Let's see. Images. Quantumly entangled photons. Images. It looks like the yin yang.
Like exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, like the
Yeah, so at a quantum level,
is that the name of that sign, by the way?
Yeah, yin yang.
Yin yang.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's
So,
exactly
right.
what
So that
oh my gosh.
so at a quantum level, there's this dichotomy, right?
Yeah.
There's
I mean, so much.
isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And like so much so that you figure
That's what it is. I thought it was
ancient China, they knew this.
Because
They had to.
the colors of the image that I'm seeing has sort of a pink with a green eye, and the green with a pink eye, and in the yin yang form.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's like a Grateful Dead sign or something.
Right. Well, but it makes
Like a
you
tie-dye,
wonder. Like
yes.
ancient Chinese people know some of this quantum stuff. Like, how did they know this stuff?
Yeah,
Right?
and we don't pay attention to any of that.
Yeah, or we're relearning it now.
Yeah,
We're
or opening up to it.
Yeah, we're they hold. I think I'm coming to believe that there really was thousands of years ago a completely different technology that people understood that included some of what we're rediscovering today. It's the only explanation for how well some of our current ways of thinking about medicine overlap with some of the ancient technologies.
Yeah, that is interesting, and the near-death experiences, I find those fascinating.
Yeah, I find them fascinating as well, and they can be really transformative. Not all are positive. There's a percentage where people come back and they didn't have a great experience with what they encountered or saw. It's typically a lower percentage. And then there are some people who come back and they say, I had this incredible experience. It was all about love. Everything is love. And I just, I want to be a better person, and nobody believes them. And then they don't have anybody to talk about. So it becomes incredibly isolating for them as well, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. You got to be very secure in your belief. Right. I always think like the belief is just the thought we think over and over and over. And if you start to think that no one's going to believe me, well, then no one's going to believe you. But you keep going forward, and eventually you find, I guess, your tribe, so to speak.
So the Proof of Heaven book, was that the one by the neurosurgeon?
Yep, Evan Alexander's Proof of Heaven. Yeah,
I remember that. Really enjoying that one.
Are you reading it right now?
I read it a long time ago.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, it's a great read.
All right, I have to ask this, and then we'll kind of close it out. This has nothing to do with what. How many books a month do you read? Because I'm trying to read all these books and I can't keep up. But I'm like, I must be dumber than like you.
Honestly, these days probably not that many. I mean, I'm writing more. Probably, I think I tried to read a little bit every day, but not much.
Yeah, me too. I try to
more about
20 minutes.
I see reading as sharpening my tools more than anything else now, right? Dr. McCabe says this a lot. He's in his retirement become a woodworker, and he says that no matter how much time you spend doing woodwork, you've got to factor in 25% of your time is sharpening your tools, right? And so if you spend a full day, doing woodwork, you're spending 5 hours because you're going to spend 20% of your time sharpening your tools. And I see writing and reading, and I put that in that same category. For me, reading is sharpening my tools so that I can write better. Yeah. Right. And writing, oftentimes, this whole book was just intended to be an exercise in sharpening my tools. I didn't know that when I started, I didn't ever think that I would publish it. I thought it would be more something for my family, a way to kind of
that's great.
Remember this, probably the craziest story I'm going to
told so well. I like the way you move things around in the book. From the manuscript.
Well, and that was all sharpening tools, right? I gave it to people like you and the other folks who we meet with. They, one of those folks, Dr. LaRue, he got back to me and said, "Man, I'm really having one of the earlier versions. I'm really having a hard time following, this and following where this is going. Maybe, maybe you could organize it a little bit differently." And so I took that feedback to heart, and then the current version is much different than the original one.
I loved the chapter, like just opening up on the cliff to me was like a big difference. More powerful. Well, it was more powerful there,
and it took a lot of time to get there, and a lot of not everything. A lot of the chapters and stuff that were written originally are no longer part of that. Some of them are making their way into the Deep Lessons book, but no longer part of that. So to get back to your original question about how much do I read these days, it's honestly not that much, but enough consistently so that I feel like I'm sharpening my tools.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm going to put myself in the enough consistently piece as well, just because it's hard with, I've got 2 young kids who I spend a lot of time with, and they're awesome. I'm trying to do a little bit more writing because of Cliff Notes and helping edit some of that as well, and Rob's influence, of course.
And you're going to get tenure.
Yep, and I got to get tenure. So I'm plugging through articles related to the dark web and opioid use right now, and trying to get trying to get those published. So awesome. One manuscript is in reviewer hell right now, but I'm hoping that by the end of this semester, that I'll have a little bit more information about.
This is one of the things I appreciate about Scott so much is he might be one of the most detail-oriented, kind of practical, logical people in one way, right?
Yeah.
And then and you're also one of the most open-minded people I know in terms of your practice and the things that and it's this wonderful
yin-yang.
It's yin-yang. It is. He was the perfect person to read the final edition of this book, because I knew that you were going to be detail-oriented and read it from a practical perspective, almost like an auditor, but at the same time be very open-minded. And that's just such a wonderful thing about you.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I appreciate just getting to be around both of you and the wise counsel.
The wise counsel I love too. I think someday, and I don't know because I know there's more that we haven't talked about that you do, and I don't know what you would talk about or not talk about, but I'd love to do like a one-on-one. If you were open to that. We're talking about Reiki and some things and other healing modalities and shaman stuff, and I don't know if you're...
Yeah, I would love to talk about that.
Because I think what you're doing at the university, I love that, and I guess I'm more impressed with that the school itself. Like, you've really opened them up, Rob.
It's an elective course, right? We cover all our evidence-based stuff and everything else we need to within the curriculum. And so there's only reason to not do it is if someone really had strong negative feelings about it, right? And we're in school of nursing, we're surrounded by people who are in hospice and places like that every day. And so this is, if we're going to be in a place that's going to be welcoming to this type of thing, we're in the right place.
I guess I always thought of higher learning institutions as a place to exchange ideas. I don't have to agree with everybody, but most of the time, the exchange of ideas with evidence base behind it, or something to that effect, I always thought was really important, and it sometimes gets lost these days. And I love that St. John Fisher University, which I am a proud alum of the college, it wasn't a university when I was there.
Tried to get you in the Hall of Fame. So apparently it's defunct.
It is defunct. It's defunct, and I found out why it was defunct and all that too. But I'm thinking at some point, if I was going to use the word manifest. If I could manifest things the way I really want to, I would love to bring it back because it needed funding, and I think that was part of the thing. Like anything, right? Is funding.
Let me just interject really quickly too. Both of you have mentioned evidence-based treatments and things of that nature. And Rob, we absolutely do our evidence-based mental health counseling, addiction counseling, adolescent counseling, every persuasion of it too. But there's an evidence base for a lot of the complementary treatment methods that we talk about as well that also just doesn't get its time in the sun. So we integrate that too as part of the course, and it's a big part of what we do, even though we do value some of the more anecdotal or phenomenological experiences that people have when it comes to these modalities. And I think that's really difficult to just ignore those as well.
I agree. I think it is difficult to ignore them. And I think you're starting to see more what we would refer to as Western or modern medicine accepting or integrating or suggesting to people to try different
looking at the whole person.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Dr. Deep is actually, his expertise is in what's called Ayurvedic medicine.
Yes.
Which is an Indian approach that really looks at the whole person. And it includes, evidence-based practice and in some cases pharmaceuticals and things like that. But it's recognizes how all of these things can work together. And so I think at Fisher we're doing a good job of trying to help make sure that people understand that there's two sides to healing.
I think Clifton Springs Hospital has a whole sort of, I don't know what you would call, but more this more natural healing than other places that I've ever.
Most do.
As
Most
I
do
was
now,
just thinking, they do. That's
and in India they have it within their 2025. I think it's their 2025 plan. I forgot it was 2025 or 2027 national plan to have nadi rods in every hospital and every school.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And Fisher was part of that. We our work there was part of influencing that to happen. So it's wild.
It is wild because nothing happens by accident. Yeah. So all that's great. Is the website up where you can get?
Yeah. So it's cliffnotesbook.com.
Okay.
And so
I didn't know if it was live. You sent the.
It is. It's live, okay. And so that if you go to cliffnotesbook.com, you can buy it directly through the publisher. You can also get it on Amazon. I think it's the same price either way. Amazon takes a big cut if you get it through Amazon. So if you got a choice, go through cliffnotesbook.com.
Cliffnotesbook.com. Very good. And Scott, any things we need to be reading or looking for from your? Is that a loaded question?
What I would say is, if you are interested in energy healing, The Energy Cure by William Bankston, Bill Bankston, is a great place to start, especially if you are more of an analytical mind. And going down that path. And if you're interested in Reiki, William Rand is usually the name that comes up for practitioners in the U.S. And there's hundreds of books I could mention right now, but I think those would be the two that I would put out there just to encourage people if they're interested in that. go and pursue it.
Yeah, I think that there's more to this life and more to our abilities than we even know, and that was I think more out of the wise counsel spawned Billightenment in a sense. You know,
I love that.
I really I appreciate you coming in, Dr. Rob Rice, Dr. Scott McGuinness, on faculty at St. John Fisher University. Please go to cliffnotes.com. The book is entertaining.
Cliffnotesbook.com.
Oh,
if you go to Cliff Notes, then you'll get like a. Which is actually Cliff's Notes, right? Is the original,
Yes,
like the yellow
yes,
books that.
yes.
This is Cliff Notes.
Cliffnotesbook.
Cliffnotesbook.com.
Right. Okay, thank you. Because you'll even see how handy Rob is, as we've talked about his writing and things like that. He even renovated the entire camper that you were camping in, like all that.
That's my favorite thing.
Yeah. See, working with your hands. I like that too.
It's important.
Thank you, gentlemen. And this has been another installment of Billightenment. It will become its own thing in 2025. And I will see you tomorrow.